Ja, dit is Katwijk in Holland. A little village close to the ocean. And that's Marcel, Frank. Frank, of course, in the little scooter. That's Marcel in the backyard in the playpen. That's Hubert. No, I'm sorry, that's Hubert in the playpen. Yeah, Hubert was a beautiful baby. There's May and Frank playing at the beach.
What beach is it?
That is the big beach in Holland that goes from north to south. This is the Katwijk beach. It's all one long strip. Well, Marcel must be the one in that pram. And Marcel must have been just a few months old. Yeah, there we are. In the shelter on the beach. Yeah, look at little Hubert. Hubert couldn't walk yet. We all called him Baby Huubke. And in the backyard on the potty.
Who is that?
That's Hubert. He was really gorgeous. Yeah, he was gorgeous. He loved the water even then, as you can see, and he loved it ever since.
Is that you there?
Yeah.
And the girl with us, she came in the daytime and was sort of helping with the children. And that was her fiancé. About 6 weeks after that, she married. They were a very nice couple. Her sister was clairvoyant. There they are in the water, having a wonderful time.
Michelle, Frank, and
No, that's May, Frank and Hubert.
That's May, Frank and Hubert, yeah. And there's Dad. Yeah, that's Hubert Senior.
See what I mean?
And that was the little pony that started it all. Every day, and when it was cold, and I said to May, no, we're not going to the beach, it's too cold. Oh, please, Mom, please, the pony might be there. And there is little Marcel, who was then just a couple of months old. And I'm trying frantically to make her laugh.
tell them which is Michael, which is John when you see those, because they don't know which
Yes.
one is we say.
Yeah, Marcel had just a bit of measles or chickenpox. It was about 4 months, I'd say.
Is it Marcel?
That's Marcel, yes. I think that, yeah, that's a neighbor child that came in. This is May, of course. And that's Marcel back in the pram. I think I finally got a little bit of a smile out of her. Yes. Now, it'll be funny for Marcel and her children to see this, to see their mother in the pram, and me trying to make her laugh for the film. And there's May. May always dare to do anything, you see, jumping from that high thing. I said, "Now you." "Oh no," says Frank. "No, not me. I don't want to." May was the brave one, and Frank would see how it goes, but no, he wouldn't be in it. You think, what about you? No. Well, there's little Hubert, May, Frank, and the girl in the dark blouse is a little neighbor that came in. It was a sunny day, so we said we must take a little snap of the children. There was a gramophone playing outside. See, funny old little gramophone, koffergramophone we called it in Holland. And the kids loved to play it. So we thought that would be a good idea. And here on the dunes in Holland, on a cold autumn day, but sunny, so the kids all rugged up and liking to race around and play. You see, always May, the instigator. "Come on, Frank, you do that too. Come on, Frank, who is there first?" So he'll do it too. I've got gloves on. I see, so Hubert made the picture. And then for a while I was handing the camera. And that is that little house that we rented in Katwijk. Was close to the beach, and it had a good bus connection with The Hague, so we could go at night to The Hague, catch a train there to BONMA, or go with the bus and see a picture or something. We had 3 rooms in that house. And those are friends of ours, very nice friends of ours, that we lived in the same house in Indonesia, and we got our children there, and we went back to Holland, and they came back, and he, as you can see, has Indonesian blood. The funny thing is, so has she, but nobody would ever notice. No, they were both Dutch, and that is one of their children. They had 2, I think. They later migrated to Canada. Well, there's BONMA. That's how she looked, and there's Nan. And where did we take? Yeah. Yeah, I think they were visiting. They were visiting in Katwijk in winter time. And there is Hubert finally walking. The first day he walked. Because he, as you see, he was such a slow walker. He was already a year and a half when he finally decided that he should walk. So that is autumn, winterish time.
Some kind of festival.
Yes, that is in 1 year. Sort of. No, that was in the south of Holland, in Limburg, where Hubert's parents lived. And that was the carnival, as they call it, which is just before the fasting at Easter. You know, you have these festivities and people dance and drink for 3 days, and then everything closes until Easter, the Catholic tradition carnival. And the rest of Holland goes to the south in Limburg, because it's the only place where they have this still on quite a big scale. Wij emigreren naar de Heksenberg. We migrate to the Heksenberg. Well, the Heksenberg is just another little place in Limburg. But the word emigreren. De kleine negertjes. The little Negroes. 10 little Negroes went along, you know, the verse. That's what they were representing. And then you had the clowns, of course. And there was a bloke on a very high bike. Did we see that one? Oh, there's one on the small one, yeah. Carnaval in Maastricht. A band, of course. And people recognize their neighbors and their friends, so they say, look what he looks like. That was a sort of the king of the carnival. That little boy is a nephew, and that was the father of Hubert that you just saw in a flash. And that is a little nephew, so that's the one who's now in America, grown up. I think that's me, yes. And this was springtime, so that means that little Hubert is now 2. Oh, that was also a nephew, the brother of the little boy you just saw, children of Uncle Jo, Hubert's eldest brother. That's the father of Hubert, as you can see, the father of Hubert, yeah. And that is the younger brother with his wife, and they came out to Australia. They have the 8 daughters, and that is the eldest brother, Jo.
Is that you?
And he is an American, the one that you saw on the right. He is an American. He's married to the sister of Hubert. Hubert has only one sister. That's his mother. That's Hubert's mother, who is still alive now. So the father died, but his mother is still alive. Yeah, there's his father, yeah. And that was just a neighbor. And this is all in the backyard of their little home in Limburg, Maastricht. Heerlen, that's right, Heerlen. This is taken from the train, I think. The train or the car? Probably train. A typical Dutch countryside. Paddocks and some trees, very flat. Little farms everywhere. Well, and here we are on a ship. And this is before the other film. As you can see, Hubert is here a little baby, and I'm still waiting for Marcel to be born. So this was really before we arrived in Holland, before the Katwijk film. This is actually the very first film we ever made.
Are you going back to Holland?
Yeah, from Indonesia to Holland. And Hubert was then almost a year, because this was February, and Hubert in March had his first birthday, but he couldn't walk yet. Oh, I remember that funny little toy. And Hubert was fascinated by it, of course. Frank wanted to play with it, so I said, let him have it now, because I want to make a film of him. Now this must be the arrival, or the coastline or so, when we arrived in Holland. I remember it was freezing cold, and we had no winter clothes. So my parents whisked us off in a taxi. We all had a lovely meal in Scheveningen. Oh no, here we're not in Holland yet. This is Hong Kong. This is being in the harbor in Hong Kong for just a few hours or half a day. And from the top deck we made films of the little boats. You could go around in the harbor or throw money and people would dive at it. And other people would haul up goods that they would buy. It's good fun in that harbor in Hong Kong with all those little boats that visit the big steamers when they're there. They all, of course, try to make some money, so they come around with their articles. Because we stayed aboard. We had to stay aboard. It was in those days they didn't provide anybody looking after the children when you were in port. So either you had to drag the 3 children into the crowds, which was not such a good idea with sicknesses and things, or you stay aboard. And they look like Chinese nurses or Indonesian, yeah, a little group. And this was the harbor. I think Hong Kong, Singapore, no, not Singapore, Hong Kong, Bombay, Aden, about 5 stops you had. The whole trip from Indonesia lasted 3.5 weeks. This looks like the Dutch where you arrive in Holland. No, maybe not so many people dressed in white, which is very, no, this can't be. Oh, there were some, what is it, maatschappij? Yes, it's Dutch, scheepvaartmaatschappij, which is Dutch. Could be in Indonesia the takeoff, and that accidentally that 3-film piece has been glued. Yes, it must be. This was the takeoff from Indonesia. And this part of the film, 3 minutes, has been glued onto the other part with the kids, but this one should have been first of the Indonesian episode. See, there's little Hubert sleeping in a playpen on the deck. And I was sitting there knitting or something. And Hubert is sitting next to his son, taking him out, taking him on his people stopping and always talking to us about the children. See, May and Frank were on the children's deck, where they could play and were supervised. So we went to the children's deck there to take films of them. They have a puzzle, I think, there that they're playing with. Pretty.
Nice to hear.
Yes. Yes, all 3 of them were always constantly drawing attention. That's me on one of those little boats when we go to a harbor. So we had somebody to look after the children for a few hours, probably, and we went to off the ship with those little transport boats to go ashore for a while. Yes, that must be Singapore, I'd say. with a few people that came with us. That's one of those rickshaws that you are pulled by a Chinese. Here we're walking. I was 6 months pregnant then. Marcel was born in May and this was February. Drawn by oxen. They did that in Indonesia too. But here was an opportunity to quickly film it. Look at the old cars. Marketplace here. Shops. Shop in Indonesian,
Right.
yeah, an Indian shopkeeper trying to sell something. And Hubert, on purpose of course, kept talking to him so I could take a shot. That looks like a station, or it is the front of the harbour building. Back on the wharf, I think. I think I saw this film only twice in my life, so I don't remember much about it. But it was definitely the trip back from Indonesia to Holland. The ship pulling out of the harbour. And Hubert taking something of the shoreline. All those places have changed so enormously in those 30 years, replaced by skyscrapers and big street. Eastern world replaced by so much of the West. Look at those lovely rugs, selling them in the streets, hand-woven, precious rugs. Hello, Roger. And that is an Indian policeman. And somebody made a drawing of him. And that's me, of course, there on the left. And there. Oh, that was a nasty camel. I remember we wanted to pet it and it was biting, trying to bite right through that little basket, and they make horrible grunting noises. There, women, veiled women. They didn't like to be photographed, so it's quite something to be able to sneak a picture of them back on the ship. Rough. People tucked in coats and rugs, catching a little bit of sunshine. Soldiers going home. The whole ship, there were an awful lot of soldiers going home on that ship. Because this was the time that Sukarno took over and Indonesia cleared out, Holland cleared out of Indonesia, and all the offices and governments The people there were replaced by Indonesian people.
Is that white over?
Yes, that looks like the cliffs of Dover, the white cliffs of Dover. Oh, this is Malta. That was rather lucky. We had somebody sick aboard who had to get off in Malta for an operation. So the ship made a detour, and we were there for about 4 or 5 hours. Most peculiar. We were not allowed to go ashore, but Malta was certainly something to look at and enjoy. And the weather was lovely. That was an unexpected little stop. Well, here we are in Scheveningen, where we were for a very short time, and during that time Marcel was born. So this is, unless it's Hubert sitting in the pram, and I was still pregnant, but Marcel was born on the 5th of May. Hubert was 1 year old on the 7th of March, and we were there from the end of February. So from February till the 5th of May we were there. This is Scheveningen, the old Scheveningen. Still quite a lot standing in Holland, yeah. And it is a koerhuis, the famous koerhuis that everybody comes to. It has restaurants and casinos and bars, and it's a lovely place. Scheveningen is the fashionable international tourist beach place in Holland. So this must have been about May, April, May, depending if Marcel was born or not. And it was the children's first experience on a Dutch beach, or on any kind of beach, because we never were on the beach in Indonesia. There were no beaches close to Medan, so for them sand and that ocean was quite something new. Little Hubert loved it. He was very happy, easy child. And in that time, May and Frank were always together and happy whatever they were doing, and Hubert was happy on his own. Wherever you put him, they were really very easy children. Marcel was a bit more difficult. That's a sports coat. I remember that my mother, that BONMA, gave me straight away when we got there, so that I had a winter coat. Then we had to get coats for the children. They needed everything when we came from Indonesia. Well, that's little Hubert, not walking yet, in that guest house where we were staying in Scheveningen. A bit of sunlight coming there, because we really couldn't make films inside. But this didn't turn out too bad, with the windows or doors open, whatever. And him standing up. Now that carpet, out of that carpet, the little carpet is made that we've got up the coast, that Mike and Sue were that was that type of carpet. I haven't got a clue what he was saying, but probably just baby talk. Tabe means goodbye. Tabe, Indonesia. Yes, it was Dubai. 1950. 1950, yeah. And here we are in Scheveningen, in that hostel, a guest house, which was very cheap in winter time and very expensive in the 3 summer months. Yeah, that's it.
That's you.
And I had Marcel then, as you can see. And Marcel was inside. We had a little girl coming in for 4 hours per day, and she helped with washing and, well, babysitting really. So Marcel at that time was inside, tiny baby in a cradle. And here we're going for a walk. So this was May, probably the end of May, the beginning of June. She was complaining, I think, and I said, no, don't complain. Daddy takes a film, so smile. For goodness sake, stop yammering about. Because I think she wanted to go to the beach again to see if that horse was there. That was always the big attraction. Huizen Crescendo, that's right. Scheveningen. Now these are 2 friends from Indonesia who also came back because during that year everybody was leaving Indonesia and they all went back to Holland and had to find other ways and means to live. So they would write us a letter, where are you, what are you going to do with your life, are you staying in Holland or migrating to Canada or Australia? That was the big point. Our young people, with or without young families. He was just married half a year, and he was an officer with Dad in Indonesia. So they were a bit at a loss. I don't know what happened to them. They were a nice couple. That other couple you saw earlier, they went to Canada, and I never heard from them again. This was the first herring, catching the first herring. And that first little batch goes always to the queen. And people are coming in and having a look which catcher, which herring boat comes in the first, because they win. They win then the prize. Of course, with a decent batch, with a full boat. I remember it was cold and windy. Well, it usually was cold and windy there. But everybody went, so we were going to have a look at it too. That was a Scheveningse fisher's woman, still wearing the old traditional clothes. In those days, very stiff, strictly religious people that regarded tourists and people from cities as foreigners. They kept very much to themselves, those fishermen. Lumpia and bami and nasi goreng, all Indonesian rice dishes, which were very popular because they came in by shipfuls, the people like us from Indonesia. And they all first go to The Hague, which seems to be The Hague and Amsterdam, the places where people try to get their footing, sort out their lives. And take it from there. But in July the rents were so high in those guest houses that we went to Katwijk, which was much cheaper even in the summer. So from here we went to Katwijk. And during this time Dad did a crash course in woolen fiber. And my father's idea was, of course, to get them in the factory and make us stay. I was terribly unhappy in those days because Hubert didn't want to stay in Holland either, but without money, well, we had about 10,000 guilders in the bank, which was quite something, but not enough to travel to Australia or Canada with and to start something, so. But my father thought, well, I'll push him in the factory, and once he's there, he's dependent on me, and that will be the end of that. We live in Holland for the rest of our lives. But then my father went to America, and that was it. He went for 3 months with Lon to America, and while he was away, and he gave Hubert permission to go and have a look in Australia on with a return ticket. And that is when he stayed in Australia and used half of that return ticket in money to get me over with the kids. And when my father came back from America, we were all in Australia. Now this looks like Australia. Yes, this is Melbourne. Hotel Wentworth, oh my God, yes, we arrived there. It was a little, horrible little hotel, ghastly, but close to the center of town, where we had 2 rooms, where we were sleeping practically on top of each other in about 4 beds. That lasted a week, and then we rented a house in Kew, and in Kew we were 6 weeks. This is the heart of Melbourne, the trams, the cars. Funny, I didn't even know we had a film of that, but that was the heart of Melbourne. It was winteries in Melbourne, but oh, so much better than Holland. As you can see, women are just wearing dresses, hats, gloves. You would never go without a hat or gloves in those days. No, I'm all wrong, of course. This is Perth. Of course, this is Perth.
Yeah.
How could I talk so funny? Yes, this is Perth.
That's right. There is the Hotel Wentworth.
And Hotel Wentworth, I can't even remember, but here they were the girls from the ship, the kindergarten attendants. Or this is all mixed up. Because I couldn't make a photo. I didn't make a film of my trip. Because Hubert flew to Perth, stayed there, And I came by plane. I came by plane. Oysters. Yeah, that was also an... Oh, that was the... in my father's factory, him and his wife, he was the foreman. He was the chemist who... Well, like your job, Brian. He was the chemist in the factory, and we liked them, and they lived close to us, and we tried to make friends with them. But he said, well, I can't make friends with the son-in-law of the manager. That would be ridiculous. So they never wanted to socialize with us. I can't exactly remember where this is. That's his child. I think he came around to visit us. And here we are in Perth, in Kalamanda, feeding the kookaburras on that back veranda. Remember the house which we found the first time? Well, that was it. With a gorgeous view at the back, a steep descent, Perth in the distance, and I was there about a week. And every morning we bought a bit of horse meat, which was very cheap, and that's how we fed by hand the kookaburras, with horse meat. So this was the time that the twins were born. I arrived in Perth 7 months pregnant, with the 4 little children. Marcel didn't walk yet, and Hubert played around, was still a very small baby. That's the house. Now remember now that we found it, and then later on I couldn't find it anymore, but that's the house. And here in this house lived the neighbors who were calling their children for tea inside, and I discovered that tea in Australia is a hot meal and not something that you serve somebody a cup of tea. The people who owned this house, they went for a year to Europe, so we had this house for a year. Hubert already living in it. It was a lovely place, but it was much too far from the center of Perth. It was too far from shops. I found it very inconvenient, but it was a nice place. And Hubert that was the owner. I never met the owner, but Hubert made part of that film and asked the owner to make a film, because at that time I was still in Holland. That's the back veranda. We had those apricot trees that we got buckets of apricot, and we had a horse there fenced in, a horse that was so terribly lonely. May was of course too small, and Hubert never got around to riding it and training it or doing anything with it. So that poor little horse crawled under a fence and went home. It's the only horse we ever heard of who crawled under a wire fence. Dug himself, and scraped under the fence and went home. To a dentist. And he took it back. Just as well, the poor thing. And I promised May that later on we would get her another horse, because this was all of May. Oh, could I have a horse? And she loved the horse. She went down every day to the horse, but she couldn't ride it. She was too small. She didn't know anything about it. I just could not let her get on that horse and disappear. Now this is the zoo in Perth. And I have photos looking up at a giraffe. One of the photos. There's a lovely zoo in a big park with palm trees. And of course a playground. And that was quite an outing for the kids. The day in the zoo. Flamingo. Well, there they are. BONMA had them later on, lots of them in the garden. And here are the kangaroos. Hubert, Marcel, May and Frank. I think the twins were home, looked after by somebody. They were still very tiny. That is color. That looks better now, doesn't it? A snake who wasn't asleep behind glass. And a lion, poor things, locked up. And Marcel, of course, because May could climb. But May decided to give her a hand. But Marcel was like a block, so heavy, so she couldn't. So Marcel, I want to help me, I want to get up. Well, okay. And that was Hubert, Frank. I think they were looking at the lions. Oh yes, I remember that elephant. We gave peanuts, and he would take a peanut with his wet little grabbing nose. And the slide, oh gosh, that slide. See, Frank is not the hero. Come on. No, that was Hubert. Once they were up, yes. Hubert thought it was a bit risky. Yeah, that was all in that park. You recognize that coat, the photo that I had the two children on Perth, where we've been trying to find out which shop it was? Yeah. Well, I was wearing that outfit, but then without a hat. The dark little thing with a flower and a grey skirt. Marcel, oh, I don't want to. I said, yes, you have to go. You can't. Yes, I want to go back. And there were other people, of course, queuing up and wanting their turn.
Had to push it down.
Yeah. And Hubert with a hat. And this was something you could put them all on and push them. I was making this one. Yeah, May was good at those things. And everybody, whenever May did something, the rest had to go too. But that was then, May is there about 6, see, no front teeth. And that was Hubert. And Hubert thought that was not so easy. Come on then, to the next one. No. And here we finally are at the twins. So this is in Lacey Street.
No, which one, John?
Oh, how should I know? I have to at least see the that looks like, I think that would be Mike. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
What mother you are.
Because they looked so much alike that that looks like Michael. That looks like John, yeah. And that is the Lacey Street. In the distance is the train. So you can understand where we are now. No, they don't. No, they have puddingy baby face. That's the house, and it's exactly the same as it was. And there the house next door, that was the shed that he made later off. But you recognize the house? Nothing changed. Now that was the grass, because we didn't do anything to the garden. So the grass was high around the place. And the kids played there. And that is Marcel. Now and then I put her hair in curlers. That's May going to school. Lacey Street was a dirt road. And now here are the twins. Michael right, John left. Yeah. Yeah, typical. Michael right, John left. My mother had one look at the faces and never made a mistake. She said, well, you can see the difference in the faces. Silly if you can't see it. Well, of course, I could see it too, but a lot of people could not. Now Michael is left and John right, of course. But they have different things on. That's John. That's John. And now when you look, Michael's eyes are different. Michael's eyes, that is Michael, see? Michael has more slit eyes, a little bit more, the top, the edges going up. You can say a little bit Chinese, which John didn't have. And that's Hubert and Marcel. And I especially would put curlers in her hair because she had hopeless hair. Yeah. In the front of the house. That's Michael, yeah, that's Michael. See, they were just walking that week. They were the first days that they walked, so. This is the trip to Rottnest Island. And it was a nice day. It took so long, I remember, because you couldn't do much aboard. Well, we went with Michael and Susan to Rottnest Island on, what was it, a hider farm? Yeah. And this was an ordinary ship. Yeah, I just had my hair done, permed. A little bit more, okay. On the ship. And there we arrived there. The sad thing is, we were only a couple of hours, of course, and then we had to go back on that boat. So we discovered it would be a good idea to go there for a weekend. Of course, it never happened. It would have cost a lot of money. But at least we had that day trip. Yeah, Hubert loved it. They all loved it. And May thought, I'll do that back to you. I'll do that back to you. Back to Perth. Evening.
That's small. Yes, very small.
All the bikes on the front deck, lots of bikes.
You'll be passing under bridges. Perth Bridge.
Well, that is again the house. That's the side of the house. We're going to the beach in an old Holden. Now that was the Holden. It was a very good Holden. It was the second model, the first or the second model. 1, 2, 3.
All these kids.
And the twins too. I don't know whether they came. Yes, the twins in the front.
And you as well.
Hop, in you go. Yeah, the twins next to me, and four in the back. Well, on one of those trips, and we had only a few, they asked me for my license, which I didn't have. And then I said, oh, I'm sorry, I have just beach gear with me. I've got the license at home. Oh, the police said, doesn't matter. As long as within 48 hours you show your license at Kennington Police Station, there's no problem. And I didn't even have one. So I got my license within 24 hours and showed it to the police station. That must be Cottesloe Beach. We never went, of course, with the children to hairdressers. So they had to be cut, and we did that ourselves.
You look nice there. That's Frank.
Yeah, that's Frank. Still with his milk teeth. That's May. Marcel, that was her normal hair. Very straight. And Marcel was very plumpish, heavy, plumpish, red cheeks and straight yellow hair. Yeah, that was on the beach somewhere in Cottesloe, or that other one where we were, where you had the parking area close by, you know, that first one? And here are the twins chasing those cows out of the property, see? Every afternoon, and I would say, well, get them out, get them out. And there they were, chasing the cows out. And the twins loved that too. See? Go away, go away. There they went. See, one inside the property, outside the property, and they were, look at them, they'll fall down in a minute. Yeah, that was John falling. I said, come on, chase them out. So he followed the other one. And now you get the thing with the little billy card. That's John. And that's Michael. They loved playing with that thing. No. And there's a cat. Hold the cat, and the cat's scratching, so crying. Now, John is pulling Michael, see? That goes well. Right. And now he can't... Isn't it lovely? And that was a Vauxhall. Also a second hand. That was a good little car. Was in school uniform, May. The yard was cut. It was the same dress but without a belt. I think I had only 2 or 3 dresses. Or maybe 2 that were good enough for a photograph.